All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. Have a 5-game slate on this Sunday for you guys. Got a lot of injury news right out the bat. Kind of what are you looking at right out the bat? Because we got some big injury news. Is there anyone that's like a standout play to you, or is it just kind of some good values here and there?
Yeah, man. It looks like in this Houston-Boston game, we have a ton of good value on both sides of the ball here. So I think Aaron Holiday, a lot of these Houston guys going to look very good today. And then I think we're just naturally going to be stars and scrubs with Jason Tatum, Sengun, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Kevin Durant. All these guys we're probably going to be spending up for. So definitely an interesting slate for sure.
If they play too, the Lakers guys, they're questionable. So let's actually start out with Houston. I think that's a good starting point today because obviously that's the biggest piece of news. We got some chalk. So Aaron Holiday's chalk on both sides. You got Thompson on DraftKings, who's pretty chalk on both sides actually. Sengun, Cam Whitmore, Jalen Green, Tate, and so like they're chalk. It's chalk for a good reason. 5-game slate. Are you kind of maxing out on both slates? Like if FanDuel, would you max out? DraftKings, would you max out?
Yeah, I'm not really playing too much on FanDuel today. DraftKings, yeah. I mean, I'm not 115 today, but more single entry just because I don't know, the chalk, there's just a ton of from one game. I don't want to go too crazy. So I'm probably just single entry today, but how about you?
Um, I probably will. Like for me, I don't know if I'll get to Sangoon. Like that's the one player for Houston that I could see myself fading. Like it's not going to feel good fading him, but like that's the one spot where he's priced appropriately. Is he going to have value? Yes. Is he still not too high owned? Yes. But I would rather kind of bet on the game being a blowout and go with Cam Whitmore, go with Tate, go with Holiday, go with Thompson, and just hope that's a blowout. Now, I probably won't do that in every single build. They'll probably be maybe half or so. So it's not like I'm getting too different, especially on DraftKings where he's 49%. But if I do that, I am loading up and hoping that the game's a blowout. So I might script it that way.
Yeah, I like that call, right? If you're not playing Sengun, make sure to play the blowout guys. If you're playing Sengun, definitely would like to get, Jason Tatum in there for kind of a good correlation there.
Yeah, I agree there. And with Boston, we'll switch in there a little bit. So they're going to be without Drew Holiday and then also Al Horford. So naturally, we typically go to Derek White, it seems like, a little bit of Peyton Pritchard, a little bit of Sam Hauser, and a little bit of Luke Cornett. But Luke Cornett is priced up. Is it just Tatum for you that you're trying to pay up for, or kind of how you go about operating with Boston then as well?
Yeah, Jason Tatum looks pretty safe here. With Kristaps and Brown healthy, it's not like it's a must play spot here with Tatum. But we have the salary today. Pretty decent matchup against Houston. So yeah, I like him a lot here.
And in the last game against Houston, I don't want to say it was like a similar scenario. I think everyone was active for the most part for Houston, but they did blow them out. He went for 50. And if he does that tonight on this 5-game slate, is it enough to win a GPP? Probably. Do we typically want a little bit more? Probably, but I don't mind that. He does feel safe. For me, I will say Derek White is certainly interesting. He just it seems like lately the games that people want him to go off, he hasn't been, and then vice versa. So I don't know. He's not too chalky. I kind of want to get to him a little bit more than the field. Only 12% on DraftKings, 6.4. That price seems too cheap, especially when you sort it by DK value. We have a ton of great value plays, and he's one of them tonight, and as well as Sam Hauser. Like I'd be perfectly fine getting to those two plays.
Yeah, man. Really like Derek White here. The model, the last game against the Nuggets, really liked him. I should have got to more of him last slate. He was way too cheap on DraftKings. And no Drew Holiday here. So I love Derek White as well. Going to be really highly exposed to Derek White on both sides or on DraftKings.
Yeah. So it seems like with these situations for Boston, it has been happening a lot. We kind of have to decide between Peyton Pritchard or Sam Hauser. Is that kind of, I guess, what are your feelings about that? Because to me, it does always seem to be, all right, which one of those two do we want to end up on? Or is it kind of just you're fine playing both of them, especially given the fact that this game could blow out? Or kind of what are your thoughts there? Because they are both popping up as decent value plays.
Yeah. First of all, they're both kind of shooting reliant off the three-pointer. Pritchard does get a couple assists a game, but I prefer Pritchard out of the two. Nothing wrong with Hauser, but I prefer him, obviously, when he does start. When he just comes off the bench, his minutes are way more unsecure. They do like Pritchard more, so I would say Pritchard. But how about you?
Um, Probably, but that's more just because of he's shooting guard also eligible. But I honestly, I probably just won't stress it too much. Like if I need a small forward, a cheap small forward, I'll go with Hauser. If I need a cheap shooting guard, I'll go with Payne Pritchard. Like that's, I don't think I'm stressing to get either of them in my builds. But like if I play either of them, I'm more than happy to. Like it's not something where I'm changing my builds. And then lastly, is Brissett potentially in play tonight? I know I believe it was Nick who called him out on the last slate in which he was kind of relevant, where he ended up having like I think it was 18 fantasy points, so nothing crazy. But if he gets us like 15 minutes here at basically the minimum price on DraftKings, potential blowout, is that someone we could look at, or is that maybe a little bit too thin tonight?
I don't hate it. I think it may be a little bit too thin, just with all the Houston guys. Whitmore is really cheap. Jayshawn Tate. So I think you can get there, and maybe if you're not getting to one of the cheap Houston guys, but I don't hate it yet. I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So we do have some other news, and then we'll get into a couple of comments here. So for the Pacers, we are still waiting on news if Halliburton is going to play or not. We do have him projected in right now, and then also Andrew Nembhard. He is also projected in for minutes currently. So both expected to play at this point, but wouldn't be surprising if they sit. Isaiah Jackson is out. I don't think we need to touch on that just yet. We can do that when we get into the guards positions, and then. Also, Washington, I think it's somewhat noteworthy that Daniel Gafford is expected back tonight. So Bagley is not really probably an option, but again, we'll talk about that when we get into the positions. Is there any other spot that you want to talk about injury-wise, or should we move into comments?
Yeah, let's just move into comments. I don't think there's any other big piece in the news. I think we have Michael Porter Jr. is questionable, and then obviously LeBron and AD. They could definitely change the side as well.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Yeah, the late night game,
Yeah,
Portland. If Simons plays as well, that'll change as well. But we'll touch on that
yeah.
when we get there. So let's see here. So Jose has been in here for half an hour, 40 minutes now. That's awesome. Appreciate it, man. Always in here for every video. Let's see here. Yeah, everyone's just kind of being supportive. Awesome. Love to see that. We got Jake saying Thompson likes him, and also saying that Hallie is going to carve up the Suns. We'll see about that. So not too many questions, but yeah, if you guys have those, make sure to get those in. We'd be happy to answer those. So with that, let's go ahead and move on into the guards. To me, the guard spots is more interesting today simply because I do think, to your point, we probably want to be paying up for a little bit of Tatum. Like he does feel somewhat safe tonight. And so we are gaining a ton of guard value as well. Do you see yourself paying up for someone like Halliburton, for Devin Booker? I like Derek White, but he's not exactly a pay up. Like, is there anyone here that you think is a real standout play?
Yeah, so a couple names. Jamal Murray against Washington, if you're spending up to the 8K or above. Really like him here against Washington, especially if you're not getting up to Jokic. And then Devin Booker is coming off, that huge blow up game. I think he had like
Yeah.
50 real or something like that, which is crazy. And then, yeah, you mentioned Derek White. I think he looks, really good. Not really spend up, but no Drew Holiday. So really like him as well.
Yeah, it's a slate in which I think we're just going to have a lot of salary left over. It's going to be trying to figure out like who to pay up for, which is going to be an issue. Like especially if like Simons is out again or LeBron is ruled out, like that late night game. And I'll just pull it up here because we kind of teased that we'd talk about it. Like if LeBron were ruled out, I think I'd be loading up on Russell and Reeves. So there's that part of the equation. It's like how do we properly value the Boston Houston value, but also maintain the late night game. And then, yeah, for Portland, we know the script. It's if Simons is out, we're loading up on Malcolm Brogdon. It does seem like Scoot could play tonight. I thought he had a concussion. So if he does sit as well, Malcolm Brogdon is just going to go off again. Kind of if one of those two sit, he's going to be in a good spot as well.
Yeah, for sure, right? Brogdon coming off a huge game. Did get 1,000 price bump and salary on DraftKings, but I still think he's too cheap if there's no Anthony Simons, potentially no Scoot Henderson. So yeah, I like that call.
So yeah, with that late night game, do you have any idea of how you're going about handling that right now? Because yeah, like I personally think Russell and Reeves would just be, if AD or LeBron are ruled out, I just would want to get a lot of them, but it's so difficult to get there because it is the later game. It's the late game. It's in 2 hours after lock, so it's very difficult.
Yeah, I think Russell pretty good play either way. Obviously he'd look better if one of LeBron or AD is out, but man, he's been pretty steady the past couple of games once he's been starting. And then yeah, I'm probably going to get to a ton of AD. Obviously, if AD sits, you can obviously pivot to maybe LeBron. And then I'm trying to think, would there be any other spend up though? Let's say one of AD or LeBron sits.
Right?
What if they both sit, right? Like, do we have any other spend ups around the price point? Like, I don't think we do.
No, and so that's it's such a weird slate because of that. Like they're clearly going to go off against Portland too, as like the studs, but it almost feels like we have to just play Tatum, hope he gets 50, and then hope that LeBron or AD, if they are active, don't go crazy. At the same time, doing a late night build while also probably playing some of the Houston like value, that could be huge. Like if you get that correct.
No, definitely. Yeah, you would pretty much, if you were building with one of AD or LeBron, which I think is a great play. If one of them sits, you play the other one, but if they both sit, like it would not be fun at all. You have to
No,
drop down. It was like
gosh.
$5,000. So
Is there any value plays here that you feel like most confidence about? Obviously, we have Tate, we have Holiday, and I'm talking about like sub 4.5 or so. So like Pritchard's in there as well. Maybe a little bit of Aaron Naismith, who's shooting guard eligible on DraftKings. We got Cam Reddish, who would maybe be a good value play. Heck, on a normal slate, Cam Reddish would be looking like a pretty decent value play, but we have so much decent value with Tate, with Holiday. Is there anyone there that you are prioritizing maybe first?
yeah, so I think Holiday and Aaron Holiday and Amen Thompson, they're both really cheap. Obviously, no Priven Lee, no Jabari Smith. I think both those guys should, absolutely obliterate their price
Yeah.
points. So yeah, those two probably for me. Um, yeah, those two probably.
It is kind of crazy that Thompson, just looking at the value, that he is not as high as Holiday or Tate, and he's relatively the same price. I guess on FanDuel he's a little bit higher price, but just something I thought noteworthy. But yeah, I'm playing him regardless. I think that's an easy plug and play. What about Cam Whitmore, who's a forward? We can kind of pivot on into the forwards there as well, and we'll jump into questions here in a second. Is he someone that's you feel like is just too good of a value to pass up on? He's been someone over the past 4 games has gotten 20 plus minutes, and in those 3 games that he did, really just crushed. And so if we have him getting 30 minutes in this game against Boston, like to me, he's a player that I don't want to pass up on. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, man, I really like Cam Whitmore. Very talented player, and even if this game does blow out, he should still play right through it. So he gets the blowout narrative and the close game narrative here. So I love him a ton. I like him a ton. And then Jayshawn Tate, I prefer him to Tate. That'll kind of segment into Tate. What are your kind of thoughts on Tate here?
So Tate is kind of one of those guys I'm a sucker for. So like for a while there, and this is probably just a little bit of confirmation bias. Like early on in the season when he was getting minutes, he was very cheap. He was kind of a guy that I was just plugging in. Like I think it was this run right here that I pulled up on the screen where he was getting 20 plus minutes or so, getting 20 fantasy points. It was really a nice, cheap, low owned value play that I could go to. So probably a little bit of bias. Obviously, he hasn't been doing that lately. But if he gets 25 plus minutes tonight, like I know he's shooting guard, small forward eligible on both sites. It's just tough to not play him, and that's the issue tonight. It's like I think he's probably my favorite Houston play, other than Whitmore, who just feels a little bit safer, but he's a little bit higher priced.
Yeah, man. It's just like we have so many good Houston plays. So like usually I say like max three, but since like a lot of these guys are sub 3K, Whitmore, Holiday, even Thompson, I think we can play four. So I know it doesn't
Is that
sound good, but yeah, they're just so cheap.
is is that too much though of those cheap plays? That's my biggest question. Like this almost seems like a end of the season NBA DFS slate with
Yeah.
the Houston plays. You know,
I mean, maybe. I think for me, I think a stand I'm gonna take is probably max one of Whitmore and Tate. I just think like with the forwards there, We haven't really
Yeah.
seen both of them get there. But again, just I just think that because Dylan Brooks is still in there, we do have Jabari Smith out, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's tough. I don't. I think I'd probably make a rule on that, but I think
Yeah.
you could go both. But for me, I probably for the upside, probably Maxwell.
So you mentioned Dylan Brooks, who's small forward eligible. Man, he is the one player that I don't want to play,
Yeah,
but really the field doesn't either. And if he goes for 35 tonight, 35 fantasy points, I don't think that'd be shocking at all. And at this price tag, certainly could happen. And like, who's to say that they just don't default to him, get him more usage? Now, I try to look at the sample size data wise earlier on today. Not big enough to really draw any conclusions from, but I would say he's very low owned. And to your point about fading a Houston player, I could like, what ceiling does Aaron Holiday have? I know he's super cheap. I know he's going to give us probably 15 fantasy points, but what ceiling are we hoping for? Like 25?
yeah, that's what I was saying. Like 25, probably.
So I would say he's the one player for Houston that I worry about ceiling wise. At the same time, it feels like a very safe play. It feels like he's going to give us at least 15 fantasy points, which should be enough at his price tag.
Yeah, I agree. Should be starting. Should give us around 15. It's more of just like he's a pretty good fantasy producer. So, yeah.
So we'll touch on some of the forward plays a little bit more here. I want to see if we're getting any more questions. Let's see. Can you rank the core? Yeah, we'll do that here, Jose, kind of at the end of the video. Talking about Brogdon on FanDuel. I would say for Brogdon's price, and I'll get your thoughts on this as well. To me, Brogdon would still be too cheap if one of the two were ruled out, Simons and Scoot. But if both of them are ruled out, he is way too cheap on both sides.
Yeah, right there with you. It's still, even if one of them's out, one of them's in, I still think it's probably a little bit too cheap. Just the way he's been playing, the minutes he's been getting. Yeah, I still think it's too cheap either way.
Yeah. Let's see here. And then, so yeah, Jacob, we kind of mentioned this question earlier, setting rules for the Houston lineup. Personally, to me, I'm kind of fine getting to as many as possible. They're just the plays that we're going to end up on for Houston are all just cheap plays. And the game could blow out. To me, most of them are going to hit value.
Yeah, I think the starters are going to be really key, right? I don't think Whitmore will start. I think Tate potentially starts here. Just monitor starting lineup again. I'll be in Discord breaking that down later. But yeah, starters will be very key, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then last question here, and then we'll jump back into forwards. So Luke Cornett for Boston on FanDuel. And so he's one player that, sure, if it's a blow up, will probably get there. And with Al Horford out, he could get there. He's been someone that does randomly get 20 plus minutes as well. Not projected for any ownership, which I'll have to refresh to see if that ends up being true. But that's because he's priced up. He's coming in off of a good game. Or I think it was maybe 2 games ago.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any appeal for him as a play? Maybe potential blowout run, or just maybe gets a little bit more run with Horford and Holiday out?
Yeah, so if we didn't have loads of Houston value, I would have been very intrigued here in Cornet. I still think in tournaments he's fine to get to. Center only though. Locks up, the center spot. If he starts, should be more popular than what he is. Could easily start here. The last time, Horford sat, we did see, I think, Cornet slide into the starting five. So just monitor that news. They could easily start him here. And if they do, I think he's a decent value play.
Yeah, I think it was against the Spurs where it was a similar situation. I think it was Horford that sat. I could be wrong, but
I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good point. If he starts, he's a good play. If he doesn't start, probably no need to go there.
100%.
So yeah, we'll jump back into the forwards here. One play that I kind of want to start with forward wise is talking about Jabari Walker, because he's been someone that has been playing a lot more minutes recently. And I would say, again, with that Portland news, he is someone that if Scoot Henderson is out specifically, but also if Simons is out, he's a player that I probably want to get to because he should be getting 30 plus minutes regardless. Maybe he doesn't have the biggest ceiling, but if AD and if LeBron are out, or if one of them are out, the matchup for him specifically becomes much better as well, and you don't really have to worry about foul trouble.
Yeah, man, I like that call a lot. I think he's been starting as well. I think he started last game. So if we can secure those minutes with him starting, very, very good fantasy producer. So yeah, I like that call a lot.
And then looking at the other forwards that we have, obviously we mentioned Sam Hauser a little bit. We mentioned Whitmore, Tate. Then we have the Denver plays kind of popping up as value. So Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon. Obviously got to make sure both of those guys are active. Then Kevin Durant, Tatum, Porzingis. So man, it's a weird slate when you look at like value wise, even though if index wise, a lot of the forward plays are not the best. Is there anyone, I'll ask it this way, like who are you paying up for? Like above 5K, who do you feel most strongly about as a play today?
Yeah, so another shot I wanted to shout was Jeremy Grant at 7,200. If Simon sat once
Yeah.
again, I would really like him in tournaments against his Lakers team. So I think at like sub 7K, I really like Jeremy Grant here. And then LeBron, obviously up top, and Tatum both look pretty good. Prefer Tatum. I think he's got a safer floor. And then monitor this Denver news because if MPJ sits, I think Aaron Gordon would look really, really good at his price against Washington tonight.
Yeah, I hope Gordon plays because then we have to worry about Peyton Watson being a potential play, and then actually I hope both of them play, Porter and Gordon, because that
Yeah.
just muddies up the whole slate even more.
100% agreed.
Yeah, honestly, you mentioned Grant, and that was a player that I had to start the day, and the more we're talking about it, I think I'm going to do like two main builds tonight. One's going to be featuring the Portland Laker game, and in that build, I'll probably just have one of Anthony Davis or LeBron, and if that way, if one of them sits, I can pivot accordingly. But that's kind of the issue is I don't want to fade both of them if they both play. That's the tough part.
Yeah, I assume one of them plays here. We'll just have to monitor. LeBron has been the one sitting. You just never know. They could rest AD. I'd have to imagine they'd be inclined to rest LeBron as he's way older. So
Any other forwards that you want to? I guess I should mention this as well. Buddy Hield, like he becomes one of my favorite GPP plays if Halliburton were to sit because the minutes for him would probably be there. We can see the last two games, 36 plus minutes in those games. What I guess, do you like Siakam? Do you like Hield? Regardless of if Halliburton plays, and then if Halliburton sits, do you like one of those two?
yeah, I think is Hallie questionable? If he were to sit, Siakam would look pretty good. I'm not huge on Hield tonight. I think we have better mid tier and
Yeah.
value plays. If Hallie sat, maybe you could look to Hield, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not huge on Hield, and then I haven't seen enough with Hallie and Siakam to really prioritize either one. I'm kind of want to
Mhm.
wait and see, at least for me, before I really pick one or the other there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Let's see here. So we're getting a lot of questions here, and so let's just kind of knock those out, and then we'll get into the centers. So the first one is kind of just going over the Horford situation where he's saying Derek White sat, Luke Cornett ended up starting. Who's to say that they don't do that tonight though against Houston, who's it's kind of the same matchup with all their starters out. That's kind of what we're waiting for. But good call out there. I like that. Let's see here. Pay up is 80, but don't forget about Jokic. Yeah, we'll touch on that in the second when we get into centers here. Blazers late night hammer. Yep. Max of AD or LeBron for sure. See, that's where it's like, that's smart, but at the same time, I feel like everyone's probably thinking about doing that. So it's like a huge leverage spot if both LeBron and AD go off. So, yeah. And then, so the next question is Nick wondering, what about paying for AD and LeBron? That's the question tonight. That really is.
Yeah, I mean, I always am going to prefer AD. I just think in this matchup here, sub 10K, he's been incredible, man. Love him in the spot. LeBron's still fine. I have a tough time not clicking AD over him. How about you?
In the matchup, yeah. I mean, Anthony Davis should be able to go off. I would argue that his price still hasn't come up enough, especially given the matchup. But he should be able to crush. 60 plus is honestly what I'm expecting, and we're getting that at 10K. Like, I like that a lot. But really, LeBron, my issue with LeBron is like I'd just rather play Tatum if AD is active
Yeah.
because the outcome's basically the same. The only way I would like to get to LeBron over Tatum is if AD's out. So I guess I will be prioritizing AD before LeBron.
Yep, right there with you.
Let's see here. T-Eds needs your core. So yeah, we'll give our favorite plays at the end of the video here. And then we got someone talking about my Packers. Yeah, that was painful. Don't need. Why'd you bring that up? That's still a sore subject there. And then yeah, Pritchard has a good play today at 4.4. What do you? I'll let you handle that one.
Yeah, I really like him at 4.4. He's kind of in the same boat as Derek White for me. No Drew Holiday, both White and Pritchard should see extended run here. So they're coming in lower on two. I think Pritchard was really low owned compared to like the Houston guys. So definitely a interesting term play there.
Yeah, I'm confused about the ownership a little bit, but to your point, it probably is just people naturally trying to just get to the Houston plays because you're going to eat up a guard spot. Might as well just play the slightly cheaper ones that probably have the same ceiling.
Yeah, no, I get that for sure.
So we'll go ahead and jump into the center plays here. We kind of mentioned Anthony Davis as a play, but let's go ahead and talk about the other pay-up play, which is Jokic. So he is chalk tonight. He is actually coming in as a very strong OF index rank. My only issue with him is the matchup with Washington, and I phrase it that way because he should crush, but maybe it's Jamal Murray, maybe it's Michael Porter, maybe it's the other Denver players that crush in this easy matchup. But what are your thoughts on him? Are you prioritizing him maybe over Anthony Davis, over Porzingis, who's popping up as a good center play? Is he your top pay-up play?
I do really like him in this spot for sure against Washington. I am slightly concerned that Denver just totally runs Washington here, and Jokic doesn't see his full, allotment of minutes. Still think he's really good. I just think Denver is just way better. So I prefer 80. I think Portland's assuming some of these players play for Portland, they can keep it closer. But if they keep it close, I love Jokic here. I just think when Jamal has been in and healthy, Jokic just hasn't been the same player in terms of fantasy. So that's kind of my take on Jokic there.
Yeah, a follow-up question to that would be, with all the value that we have, is there any scenario where you end up on both of them? Like both Jokic and AD? Because you can play them on both sides.
Yeah, you definitely could, right? Like you have the salary. I think you'd probably have to fade Tatum in that scenario,
Yeah.
but I think he's definitely fadeable for sure.
I think we should try that after this segment because that might still be unique enough, especially on FanDuel where neither of them are too chalky. Now, probably becomes a little bit more difficult on FanDuel, but the values on FanDuel are at the small forward spot and the guard. So still seems pretty plausible.
We can definitely do that for sure.
All right. And then kind of looking at the other plays, Miles Turner coming in as a good play, especially pricing wise. I don't know if I exactly agree. The public doesn't exactly agree with 4%, but if he is going to get 30 minutes, somewhat intriguing, especially maybe if Halliburton sits. I don't know if there's a correlation there, but definitely someone that is coming in too low owned compared to what the data is thinking.
Yeah, I agree there for sure.
Is there anyone here that's popping up for you? Like I kind of mentioned, we mentioned Jabari Walker. We got Daniel Gafford and Bagley, who are both probably too cheap if we knew one of them was going to get 30 minutes, but they're kind of eating into each other's workload. You have maybe Vanderbilt, who becomes a good play if Anthony Davis or LeBron sits, and same thing with Christian Wood. We mentioned Luke Cornett. Is there anyone else here that you think's a pretty decent play?
Yeah, so just to briefly go over Sengun, I think he's fine with Tatum lineups. I don't know if I would play him without Tatum just because I feel like you want both of those guys if you're playing that game scripts. And then obviously if you're building a blowout, you don't want either one. And then, a couple other guys. DeAndre Ayton probably don't want to play. It's a good matchup, but I don't know. I don't love the spot here for him. You mentioned Jabari Walker. I like that call a lot. Kristaps Porzingis, did want to mention him. No Horford against Houston. Not a terrible matchup against Sengun, so I don't mind him in tournaments. That's probably about it, though.
Yeah, I probably was sleeping on Sengun a little bit too much. Like, if we're playing Anthony Davis and Jokic, like Sengun might have the ceiling still too. I don't like it seems like I'm choosing between at least one of those three at this
Yeah,
point.
definitely right. We could maybe try to. I don't know if you could possibly jam Sengun 80 and Jokic. That we could
Let's do
definitely
it.
try to do it.
Let's
But
try it.
yeah,
Let's try it right now,
all right,
and then
let's
we'll
do
get
it.
into some questions here. So yeah, Sangoon will put at center, obviously, and then Jokic, power forward because he's early. Oh, he's center only. My bad. He's center only on DraftKings. That's fine. Davis, power forward. So there we go. We can
Jam
switch
Houston
this around.
Boston value matchup.
And then yeah, and then we'll do that. So let me correct this though.
Now you good.
All right. So yes, Houston. Do we just go Holiday, Whitmore, Thompson, Tate?
Yeah, let's just jam them. Let's see what we can do.
Okay. Whoops, not Brooks.
Definitely not Brooks.
I don't think he's a bad GPP play, but for this build, no, not a good play.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And then Whitmore. So 6K left over by doing that. And so this is the slate. This is awesome, honestly, like that we can do this. Reeves is right there. Probably wouldn't want to go Jalen Green. Scoot Henderson, I think, would be a good play. If Simons is out, he'd be a good GPP play. Definitely interesting. The fact that we can easily make that work.
Yeah, let's take out Sengun. Since we don't Tatum, let's just go the 80 Jokic and then see what we can do from there.
Yeah. So who was the next best play? I'm just gonna let me refresh the data here. It's probably like maybe Derek White, maybe something like that. But let's see here. Derek White is the fourth best value.
Yeah, let's go White. Let's go White. I like that a lot.
And then 7.8, that leaves us with Porzingis, potentially Jimmy Butler, maybe Simons. I mean, I'd be fine probably with Porzingis too.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Oh man, this is the issue. It's super easy to make a good build.
Yeah, and then let's we could also try to go instead of White, let's go down to Pritchard and see what that would leave us for salary.
Yeah,
just like kind of see what we can build here.
LeBron, Halliburton. I mean, there
you go.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy how easy it is to make a good build. If Hallie plays against Phoenix, that's certainly interesting because he has 50-point upside, 60-point upside. We've seen it. Decent matchup. You know he's going to try to show up against Phoenix. Ah, man.
Yeah, I think in that game, I think it's the highest over-under, and it's coming in really under-owned. So in tournaments, as like a tournament player, I really like that. Seeing the highest over-under game come in under-owned. Very intriguing there.
At 248, and it's a 5-point spread, so theoretically, we don't have to worry about the blowout either. So, oh man, that's crazy. Then Jamal Murray is a pay-up play that we kind of mentioned we can maybe get to. This lineup is chalky, but I don't know if the combination that we just ran out is going to be. I mean, it will be. It probably will be duped, but maybe not as much as you would think, especially if we run out Halliburton or Tatum in this specific example.
Yeah, and I feel like, with Pritchard and White, I feel like they're going to be low enough owns that we could get away with it.
Yeah, I agree. So let's see. Any questions that we have more coming in? Let's see here. Best guard plays. That's kind of a loaded question. It's like we got some pay-ups, we got some value. It's Houston for sure. Those all of them, and then it's kind of a toss-up. Really, it's White, Halliburton. It's really where your lineup goes.
100%. Like Aaron Holiday, Amon Thompson, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Tyrese Halliburton. I think those guys are probably the top guard plays.
Do you like any FanDuel plays? So we'll kind of just the thing with tonight's slate is it's basically every single play that's a good play on DraftKings is a good play on FanDuel as well. Like the pricing is maybe a little bit different in some spots, but for the most part, it's correct across the board. Like Anthony Davis, I like a little bit more probably on FanDuel because he's higher priced there and less people are going to be on him, but it seems pretty correlated today.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Okay. So we kind of answered this question. And then we got Tatum, easy fade. I don't know if he's an easy fade. I would say to our points, like we kind of mentioned, if you're playing Sengun, like him and Tatum together makes a decent amount of sense.
Yeah, I feel like Tatum definitely more game scripted towards the Sengun route. We definitely want both of those guys to correlate with each other. So yeah, I wouldn't fade him. I would fade him if you're not playing Sengun, and if you're playing Sengun, I messed that up. Don't fade him if you're playing Sengun.
Yeah.
Fade him if you. I'm just gonna move
Yeah.
on.
No, I gotcha. I'm actually very curious. Can we fit? I don't think we can, but I just want to try it. I don't think we will be able to.
Yeah.
Tatum, and then no, we can't. I was gonna say if we go down from Whitmore to a min price play, can we fit him in there as well? But no. But let's see here. Sengun, Tatum. This is betting on Anthony Davis to sit. It's still very plausible to make that lineup work while playing all the Houston plays as well. So it's not too crazy. You're just betting on LeBron to sit, and if we're betting on, AD to sit, then we're probably looking at Reeves or something like that. We probably have too much salary left over, but this is where we're paying it for Jokic probably a lot.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Just so many different studs, right? It's real. I think it's going to come down to, do you nail the studs right, and do you nail the correct value? And if you get both of those, then you'll shit.
Let's. I do want to try to do the Houston plays with Portland as well.
Okay.
And the Lakers game as well. So I think that's where we're going to get most unique. And so it's tough to go about doing that. Like, do you still want to play Jokic, or would you rather play AD? Obviously, we're not playing Tatum. Sengun, maybe we don't need to get to as much. But like, to me, Malcolm Brogdon's the play I want to play. And you kind of mentioned Grant, Walker.
Let's go. Can we go like maybe Brogdon, AD, Grant? Or we can't do that if we have Whitmore. Let's go Brogdon.
We might be able to.
Let's go Brogdon for sure.
Okay. No, we can easily fit that in. Like,
and we did just get confirmation. Eamon Thompson officially starting for Game League, so he's starting officially.
Okay. Did we get? So is it? Do we have the official starting lineup then for them as well?
Yeah, I don't think Holiday is going to end up starting now. I thought Holiday would start for Fred VanVleet, but I guess he probably comes off the bench now.
So that's interesting, because to me, like, again, if one of the two sit, LeBron or AD sits, like I want to get to Russell, and for this example, like he'd be an easy play, and then like I would want to play Reeves, but that's like conundrum here. It's like we have still so much salary left over for a build that looks pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm curious to see, if Holiday doesn't start, like what his ownership comes in at, because right now he's like 70%. So I still think he's a good play, 3,100, but not as good as he would have been if he was starting.
For sure. But it's like if he's going to get 20 minutes,
he
still should hit. Yeah. Porter Jr. is in. Okay. So there we go.
Yeah, it's big. That pretty much eliminates any interest I had in Aaron Gordon or any of those guys in the mid-tier.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. I want to see if the ownership changed at all. No, Aaron Holiday went up to 82%.
Oh.
So a lot of people are getting there. Sengun, 52%. So the more we're going through it, the more I think I'm just going to get to Jokic and just hope that game doesn't blow out too fast, and hope he's the reason why it's blowing out.
I mean, it's a fantastic spot for Jokic tonight. So yeah, I love that call.
And then the ownership tells me with Anthony Davis that people probably aren't too worried about him sitting. That he's 40% on the late night hammer. But looking at the rest of the ownership for that game, everyone else to me is probably a little bit too low owned. LeBron 21%, Russell 9, Reeves 9, Brogdon 8. Like, that's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, I expect him to play. You never know with the Lakers studs and AD, how fragile he is. So you just never know. But he should play.
Yeah. So, are you double dipping tonight in the Discord?
Yeah, I'm going to run them back tonight in Discord.
I gotcha. So yeah, I'm going to do the Discord chat plug real quick, and then we'll answer any questions that come in, and then we'll begin out of here. So, guys, yeah. So, JR's going to be jumping into the Discord chat right after this. Many of you guys probably know us by now, but link to join is going to be in the description below. We always go live 30 minutes before lock. This video that you're watching right now typically takes place at the same starting time that it typically does. Today was an hour earlier because the slate was a little bit earlier. But yeah, we always go live in the Discord chat. One of us that does these YouTube live streams half an hour before lineup lock. So, JR's going to be in there tonight. So, once that Halliburton inactive news comes in, he'll be able to tell you guys what to do with that news. I'm just kidding. That's not going to happen, but it might. But that'd be
Man,
fun.
that just would be even more chaos, right? Like, TJ McConnell now, like that would be, oh man.
So
Let's
you're
hope
not. I hope you're not playing a lot of lineups tonight because that
I'm
would
a,
be so
yeah.
chaotic.
What's is there any game that logs Reddit? I'm just curious what game logs Reddit.
It's Washington and Denver. So like to me, the only play that we want to get to there for sure is Jokic.
And the Boston game's locking too. Oh, that's at 5. My bad. I forgot locks an hour early. My bad.
Miami and Orlando's the other game. So
yeah, I don't want anyone from that game.
Dude, it's crazy. That game feels like such a cross off. But like, who is it? Caleb Martin, didn't he have a good game in his last two? Like on a normal slate, we'd probably be looking at him as a play, but like there's no point in getting to him.
Yeah. So we actually got starters for Houston. So let's cover this real quick while we're on stream. Jalen Green starting at the point guard. Dylan Brooks at the 2, Thompson at the 3, Whitmore at the 4, and then Sengun at the 5. So no Aaron Holiday.
So that actually makes sense to me. And we didn't really mention Jalen Green. I think he would fall under the category of if we're playing Sengun and Tatum in a lineup. I personally think he'd probably be a good GPP play because we're betting on the game somewhat staying close then, or close enough for long enough. And he's someone that should have the highest usage rate on the team. Maybe Sengun, but it should be him or Sengun. He's very much shot dependent. But man, he's priced below 6K. He could easily go for 45 tonight.
Yeah, he's a really, really good player. Now that he's starting at the point 2, he was projected to start at the 2, so starting at the point's even a bigger bump to him in my opinion. So yeah, I like him a lot.
Oh man, I love the slate and I hate the slate. So I'm wondering if he becomes more chalk. So he's 35 and 43% owned.
I would say if
that gets up to like probably 45 on DraftKings, maybe about the same on FanDuel. That's probably correct. But
I think the last question before we hop the stream is how much Aaron Holiday do we want, right? Like 3,100 not starting. Is he overowned? I think he's probably overowned now, not starting. But I still think he's a good play. I just don't know if I'll like get to 80% owned Aaron Holiday here.
Yeah, I would say prioritize playing 3 of the Houston value plays. Do you have to play all 4? Probably not. That might not be the optimal approach. And if it's Aaron Holiday, that's not, and you're gaining huge leverage on the field, like that could easily happen. But like to answer that question, if you are fading Aaron Holiday, would that just mean that you're playing maybe Dylan Brooks or Jalen Green, or is it just the game gets ugly fast and you don't need to play really any of the point guard?
Yeah, again, I don't know if I'd fade him. I just think I'd come in like heavily underweight to what he would be owned at. Just because I think the odds of him not getting the optimal lineup are like higher now than they were if he would have started.
Yeah. So, guys, that is going to be it for today's live stream. We appreciate everyone being in here. Be in here tomorrow as well. Appreciate that. Any final thoughts before you have to jump in the Discord?
Nope. Play a bunch of Houston guys, play a bunch of Boston guys. Maybe get up to Jokic, get up to AD, and let's crush the slate.
All right, that's all. Good luck everyone tonight, and then jump in the Discord chat. Links in the description below. All right, thanks.
Thank you guys.